Cousin Jared, we are back for more college football. Week 9, past the halfway point. I don't know. It feels kind of crazy to be this far through the season already.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to think about that because I'm going to get sad. But the other thing is that one of the only things I've said throughout this whole season is I am not doing a show 3 nights a week. And somehow, here we are doing 3 shows this week. So college football always finds a way to suck me back in.
Sucks you back in.
Yeah, as badly as I say I don't want to do something, I will always come back for college football.
You'll get your rest come fall, or not come fall, come spring, I guess. Spring and all right, let's get right to it. We got some early week games. Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, New Mexico State, LouisianaTech. New Mexico State, keeps chugging along like the little engine that could, it seems like. Just playing well. Best unit on the field will be their offense. Sideline thinks that the LouisianaTech offense is right behind it. I'm not sure that's true, to be honest. Bachmeier grades out okay for Group of 5, largely based off of previous season's data, which we talk about. We can't just disregard that. But he hasn't looked great this year. They've gone to the backup, partially because of injury, partially it just seems like because Bachmeier hasn't been very good. Like, I don't really know what they're doing at quarterback at Tech. Maybe they do. Maybe someone knows. But, it hasn't been great, whatever they do. Neither defense also, though, not good, as you can see on screen. The question about the total in this game, I think it's going to be the fact that New Mexico State just doesn't want to run plays. But offensively, they're decent and whatnot. But, defensively, both these teams lack a lot. Questions how many plays there will be. That's going to affect the total. We're not here to talk about the total. We're here to talk about the fact that Cousin Jared, my favorite thing in the world, is give me a 50-50 game at plus odds. And that's what we have here, plus 115 B grade pick. I just want my whole card to be this. Nothing but this. Just plus odds and coin toss games. I agree. New Mexico State 5-3 somehow. Jerry Kill working after
miracles.
Losing at home to UMass. What in the world?
Yeah, Jerry Kill working miracles. I have left, aside from that game against UMass, I have left most New Mexico State games this season feeling fairly well about them.
Yeah.
Whereas I cannot say the same thing about La Tech. Sideline has done good backing New Mexico State. Has not done as well backing La Tech. There's something about Louisiana Tech that Sideline sees, and it's just not quite clicking, in my opinion. So that's part of why I like this play. The other thing is our boy Diego Pavia, who a year and a half ago, he came into the second half of that first game of the season against Nevada. That was I don't know, one of those August games. And we were like, hey, they should roll with this guy, because he looked a lot better than the starter. And I will be damned if
it took a while for that. I mean, because he wasn't good for a while in the season.
Yes.
He was in and out.
Yes. And definitely this season, it took him a while to get going. I think just by glancing at Sideline's ratings, I think he's a top 5, top 8 Group of 5 quarterback. Of all Group of 5 quarterbacks, I think he's in the top 5, 8. Definitely, I would say top 10. I know I'm just talking now while you're looking that up.
I'm definitely looking it up right now.
Yeah, he is good for a Group of 5 quarterback. So I know New Mexico State's on the road, but in my opinion, substantially better quarterback than Hank Bachmeier with in my opinion, substantially better team, and who has just given me more good feelings this year. I don't know if I have felt good about Louisiana Tech in any game I've watched them play this season. Whereas, like I said, the exact opposite with New Mexico State. I felt good about basically everything. Can't believe that I'm getting plus odds on this is what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Jiffy guess as to who number 1 is Group of 5 quarterbacks, according to Sideline.
Well, I'm going to guess it's either Pratt from Tulane or Granger from Georgia State.
Granger is second, so good job on that one. No, Pratt is not as high up there. I think the model likes the rest of Tulane overall and thinks that they've just got a lot of talent. Number 1, Frank Harris. Frank Harris, number 13, Darren Granger, number 17. And then you've got Grayson McCall, 25, Preston Stone from SMU, 26, Diego Pavia, 27, Gutter Watson from Troy, 28. So you got a bunch of them who are right there, all kind of tied. So technically he would be fifth, but I mean, kind of like tied for third, really. Surrounding area. And you're right. He's actually absolutely been fantastic. And I had to talked about this last week with him. Even at the end of last year, his numbers weren't even that impressive other than he took care of business against bad teams. But this year it's really been picking up. It's just like when you break the season down into quarters or thirds or whatever, it's just like every chunk, he just seems to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
It's what you hope for from a college kid. You just don't see it a lot at
New Mexico State. Yeah,
New Mexico State, right? So, I'm like you. You got the best player on the field, or the best / most impactful player, right, on the field in Diego for plus odds. They're the better team.
Yeah, and not even to mention they've won their last 3 games by at least 2 touchdowns. It's just I think they're heating up at a good time.
Yeah, and LouisianaTech's just been really disappointing. Again, we always talk, right? You're not as good as you look at your best. You're not as bad as you look at your worst. You have to try to figure out though, like, is that just a one bad game, one good game, or just kind of just who you are? And that's, at least for me, we'll see. I mean, opinions can change week to week, right? But for now, my view on New Mexico State is they're solid. And I think what you said made a lot of sense, right? How you said you felt good leaving the games. It's like, I kind of feel like I know what I'm getting with them. They're not great. Yeah. They're solid. They kind of do what they're supposed to do. You know what you're getting. It's decent football. Yeah. LouisianaTech just feels like they can completely lay eggs. Maybe New Mexico State lays an egg, right? There's no locks in gambling. These are 19-year-old kids. We have no idea what they're going to do, but I haven't felt like that with New Mexico State. Model thinks they're better. That helps us out. Coin toss, game plus odds I just feel like they're less likely to lay that egg. LouisianaTech could definitely do that. And even if they don't, it should be a good game to be plus odds. And again, tight game. If it happens to be tight, I want the ball. I want to be backing the better quarterback. That's Diego Pavia. Wednesday night, and my goodness, Cousin Jared, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. People, if for whatever reason you just tuned into the Tuesday show and you didn't watch yesterday's college football show, make sure you go back and catch that, because we talked about some other bad football in there that's not being talked about by most of your talking heads. Cousin Jared, are we talking heads now? Does that make it?
I mean, I don't know.
Something for us to think about. We got another stanker for you here. UTEP and Sam Houston. These midweek games, because of Jared, we watch them. I don't know, like sometimes at the end of a Saturday night, after watching college football all day, when we watch some bad football, like I watched that San Diego State Nevada game.
I'm sorry.
And it was bad. Yeah. And I kind of just felt like sad and alone and tired, and honestly, that makes sense after Saturday. I mean, we watch just so much football. It's kind of exhausting. Like, it's fun, but it's exhausting, right? Sometimes you just watch one crappy Wednesday game and you feel that way, because it's like, what are we doing here watching this? But we're gonna watch it either way, because this is what we do. A lot of orange on the field potentially on this one. Sam Houston, decent defense, gonna play really slow, gonna really try to grind the game down to nothing. Terrible offense, not as bad as some teams. Apparently their offense looks worse because of the pace, but make no bones about it, it's not a good offense. But overall, as we mentioned, the model's been high on their defense, been somewhere around average, either just above or just below kind of all season. Model really was high on Sam Houston after those first 2 games, shutting down BYU and Air Force. Took a step back, I think, a little bit recently, but still a decent defense. But the offense is so much worse. So it's kind of interesting when you look at this game. You go, Sam Houston, a little extreme offensive defense. UTEP just kind of more middle of the road. But that all adds up to, a Sam Houston team that the model just does not like whatsoever. Cousin Jared, 62% chance for UTEP to win according to the model, plus 155. That is surprising. That we're getting such good odds when the model thinks that UTEP should be favored.
Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you that UTEP is a good football team. They're not. Although I would say they went on the road and beat FIU a couple of weeks ago, and FIU turned around and beat Sam Houston. So again, we talk about it all the time. That theory doesn't exactly work like we would like it to in college football. UTEP's not a great team, but I want to look at Sam Houston, and in their conference games, they lost to Jacksonville State by 7. They lost to Liberty.
Not a bad loss.
Not a bad loss. They lost at Liberty by 5. That's a bad loss. Yeah. Lost at New Mexico State by 2 touchdowns. You just talked about how New Mexico State's been playing pretty well.
Take care of business.
Yep. And then that game that went to triple overtime with FIU last week that Sam Houston lost by 5. where I'm going with this is just, again, purely based on what Sam Houston has done in conference. I think that they are incapable of like blowing a team out or not playing in a close game. Like, I just think this game's going to be close.
Yep.
And so if you guarantee me that I'm getting a close game and I can get plus 155, sign me up. I don't know what let's see here. I don't know what the current spread is on this game. I don't know if it's 3 or 3.5. Let me double check this real quick. 3.5. Okay. This might be one. Usually I have reserved a play on the spread, or, kind of splitting my bet for something if I'm getting a touchdown or more. With these two teams, I might be splitting my bet at plus 3.5 and on the money line at plus 155, because there are probably about 1,000 different ways that this game lands on 3, one way or the other. And so
get 3-0. 10-7, 6-3, 9-6.
Yes. And just how the FIU Sam Houston game last week went to overtime, tied at 20, completely on the table for this game to go to overtime, tied at 17, tied at 20, tied at 23,
14, 13.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then you get in a situation where that 3 and a hook is really going to be valuable for you in overtime. So if you can get 3.5,
especially because people think about kicking the field goal, what they forget sometimes is if the first team that scores kicks the field goal, which could happen in the first or the second overtime, the other team scores a touchdown, you win by 3.
Yes.
So there's no extra point. So you can't even get caught by that. So that 3 is really valuable in overtime. And then if you get to triple overtime, barring a 2-point success and then a pick 2 the other way, which is almost never going to happen, you've won as well. So very, very, very much agree with you.
So 3.5. So I would split my bet if you can get 3.5. If you're just at 3, I could go either way. You can split your bet or just take the money line at that point. But I just think this for me is about Sam Houston. I think it's going to be a close, tight game. I don't think they have the offense to pull away. And if I can get plus 155 in a close game, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 programming notes here. First off, I typoed on the slide. Sam Houston's offense grades out at a 68, number 132. So only one offense actually grades out worse than them. I just typed their online. And eventually I will automate that process so we can avoid those typos in the future. The other programming note, because Jared and I've talked about this week, should we do some official splitting of picks as official recommendations? We know that we have a lot of viewers and a lot of people on Dub Club who kind of just do what you do, and that's great. We just try to provide extra information. We try to get you things to think about, and you make your decisions, and that's great. We're happy for that. But we know there's a lot of people who just kind of want to follow along in tail and kind of hear what we say and like to follow that specifically. And we've talked a lot about splitting our bets. It's not part of the official picks. It's not the way I've formatted it, but we have talked about, should we incorporate that? We have some ideas. So maybe we'll have that as some official things. But until that becomes official, we'll continue to talk about it here on Discord as well, which games make a lot of sense for that. But in general, I think what you've kind of said as a general rule of thumb is, less than a touchdown, just take the money line.
Yep.
For the dog, take the plus odds. 7-10, maybe 7-14, maybe sprinkle a tiny bit on the money line, with the exception being these games with really low totals. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. One last note here, talking about this actual game itself. I don't want to get into this. Sam Houston hasn't won a game they're capable of winning. I don't really think that's true. I'm not trying to say that because they haven't won a game, they can't win this one. I think, to your point, because Jared, what you made so well earlier, is they just play in a lot of close games. They're not good enough offense. They're terrible on offense. So they're going to have a hard time blowing teams out. Now, obviously, if anybody's going to get blown out, you can make a case it's UTEP. But you could have made a case it was going to be FIU last week too, right? I mean, there's some terrible teams in this conference. But they haven't really been able to do that. Maybe they do it here. We don't really know. But the odds are in our favor that this is a tight ball game. And that benefits us greatly taking such good plus odds like this. Model maybe a little bit too high on UTEP, but I think it's kind of spot on Sam Houston. This is not a very good football team. Part of being a good football team is being able to score enough points to have outcomes go in your favor. And they haven't done that this year because their offense is so bad. And that's where teams have taken advantage of UTEP. Northwestern, for example, kicking the crap out of them. New Mexico State, same thing. I mean, those teams have offenses. Not that Northwestern's a great offense, but it's a heck of a lot better than Sam Houston. So Sam Houston's lack of offense could really hurt them here. Wrapping this up, we do have a big game here, Tennessee and Kentucky. We've got a weaker game at 7 p.m. on the after show, the extended cut, the study hall, whatever we're calling it, with Troy and Texas State. And we've got a couple of Mountain West late games, so make sure you can sign up, link in the show description, talk about those if you want to hear what we think about those. Tennessee and Kentucky, though, one of the kind of more intriguing night games. Cousin Jared, Tennessee's defense rates as the best unit on the field in this game. What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to make of that.
Yeah. As the great Michael Scott said on The Office, oh my, how the turns have tabled.
I think it's how the turntables have turned, but that works.
Close enough.
And I actually talked with Jake about this a little bit, that their defense at times has potentially been better, but they play so fast, they score so quick, it kind of masks some of that. That's why we talk about efficiency versus pace and trying to make those clear. But this Tennessee defense has been legit. The offense has taken a step back. If you would have said that they had a top 10 offense and a mediocre defense, that's kind of what we expected coming into this year. But the offense has kind of sputtered a little bit. The defense has played strong. Is there anything to playing Alabama and then now playing the next week? We talk about teams sometimes struggle the week after they play a team like Alabama, a team like Georgia. I'm going to go on the road, kind of a rivalry game here, Tennessee and Kentucky. This Kentucky team's not bad. Probably not quite as good as Tennessee, but not far behind. A model thinks this is close to a coin toss. Not quite a coin toss, but close enough that plus 155 is a pretty good bet. Look, we get to risk less than a full unit on this one to win more than a unit and a half if it comes through. Because this has been our bread and butter this year, has been these types of just plus 120s, plus 150s, plus 190s. Just college sports are weird. And that doesn't mean you take all of them like that. It means you identify the ones that are closer to being kind of coin tossing. And this is one the model has identified as that. What is your take on it?
You mentioned this being a rivalry game. Tennessee would tell you it's not a rivalry game.
Fair.
But Kentucky
definitely will tell you.
Would tell you that it is a rivalry game. And if I recall correctly, Jake mentioned specifically this spot in our offseason show where
when he picked Tennessee's under, I think he said that coming off of Bama, this will be a tough one.
Yeah. And so he knows his Tennessee football. I will definitely take what he says under advisement there. You mentioned Tennessee's defense. I mean, not one to poke holes in that defense, but they played Virginia, Austin Peay, Florida, UT San Antonio Sans, best G5 quarterback Frank Harris, South Carolina with up and down Spencer Rattler, A&M coming off Alabama, and then Alabama last week. Maybe even bigger than playing Alabama last week. I don't want to say how they lost that game, but being up by so much at halftime, dominating the first half of that game, and then letting it go.
And not even being close.
Yeah. And then letting it go like they did, scoring no points in the second half. Like, could be something that could stick with you for sure. What I do have faith in Kentucky doing is playing solid defense and being able to take away from you the one thing that you can do, you like to do, or you can do well. And Kentucky's been able to do that every game this season, obviously, except Georgia, and then Missouri, I think, was just a tough spot for Kentucky, and Missouri's been a lot better this season. But if Kentucky's able to take away from Tennessee the one thing they do well, that's running the football, not passing the football, running the football. Wow. And then that means you are putting this game, in my opinion, on the shoulders of our boy Joe Milton, who week by week sideline has said, let's knock him down a little bit. You know what? Let's knock him down a little more. And then let's knock him down a little bit more. Kentucky at home, I think they can make Tennessee one-dimensional. And I just don't have faith in Joe Milton to make all the big throws that I think he's going to have to make in this game. Whereas I trust Kentucky to just plug along, be consistent, do their thing. I love this play. I absolutely love this play. That doesn't even take into account if there's any physical effect from playing Alabama the week before. I didn't even consider that. But if that's the case, even better for this Kentucky play.
Yeah. Joe Milton ranks now 62nd according to Sideline, and that's just such a drop off from what they had in what was a Heisman worthy campaign from Hooker until he got injured. Like you said, the strength of the team's running the ball and playing defense, and it's just so crazy compared to last year. But so it happens when you lose a great quarterback, and Milton has just not been that good. And I think it's a little bit disappointing. Like we always talk about, right? We like to see players succeed. We don't ever want to root for anybody to just do bad. We like to see everybody play their best, and he looked really good in that bowl game. And in a couple of the games at the season, we were kind of thinking, hey, man, he might have figured some things out. He might pick up, he always had potential, and then it just has not happened this year. And it doesn't get any easier facing Kentucky. Not that Kentucky's defense is as good as Alabama's, but on the road against Kentucky, it's not like it's going to be, an easy spot for him to start figuring stuff out. Next week against UConn, that's the spot to figure it out. Unfortunately for them, the games are flipped, right? That would have been the one you wanted to recover, prep for Kentucky, et cetera, and say you can probably look ahead for real in that spot and it'd be no big deal because you'll still beat UConn. Definitely close to a coin toss game. If there is any ill effects from Tennessee playing Alabama, it probably is a coin toss game. But I think you make some good points there with Kentucky just being a solid football team that's going to hang around. Like we're always saying, hey, they're going to hang around, make this a game at home. Plus 155 is a great price to invest in. And that's what we're all about here, is just investing at good prices. I had someone ask me today what I do, and I say I'm kind of like a financial advisor for sports betting, trying to figure out what prices are good to invest at, what prices aren't. And this is a great price to invest at, plus 155. We're not saying we know exactly what's going to happen. We can't predict the future, but it's a good price to invest at for the home team, who is not that far behind a Tennessee team that I'm curious if your take on this. I'm not sure what to make of them, honestly. Like the loss at Florida, obviously wasn't good. They played better against A&M for sure. Last week was just a tale of two halves. Like I just don't quite know what to make of this Tennessee team. And that just seems like it's really a steep price to lay for the road team when I just don't know what to make of them at this point. I don't know. And I guess it's why we love being on the other side, right?
Yeah. You're exactly right. I just think that they are going to be inconsistent. And I feel like what we've seen from Kentucky the past however many years with Mark Stoops is if you're going to be inconsistent, Kentucky's going to be able to capitalize on that.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, that's our 3 free picks. We got 3 more games coming to you after the music, including 2 late night Mountain West games, 3 group of 5 games. We are
on brand today.
On brand today, cousin Jared, with 5 group of 5 games and a Kentucky pick, because you've been kind of up and you've been trying to zig and zag with Kentucky every year. It seems like usually pretty well, to be honest. Cousin Jared, any parting words before our 30-second reprieve?
As we were recording this, the Vikings got us another win. NFL, just a money printing machine. Make sure you're with this channel and with Jake and the professor here when they do their NFL breakdowns every week, because it has been a thing of beauty so far this season.
It's been better than I could have hoped and dreamed. Absolutely. Very, very well said. And hopefully, again, if you want to be with us on the other side of the music, that exclusive link comes to you if you're in Dub Club. Sign up link in the show description. Hope to see you on the other side.